This is a typical crime scene that is far more disturbing. The lives of two innocent people, out on their very first date, were brutally shattered. The question that hung in the air was a chilling, why? Leslie Reeves had recently connected with Chris Smith, a singer in a band. They decided to meet up at a busy local bar the night before Thanksgiving. Chris lived about 65 miles away in a small farming community, and the bar was packed that night. By all accounts, Leslie and Chris were having a wonderful time, laughing and chatting easily with each other and those around them. Around 10 p.m., Leslie texted her friend Nanette, saying everything was going well. But then, a second text followed, a little unsettling. I feel like something's a little bit off or something. I'm not sure what she meant. Tragically, that was the last message Nanette ever received from Leslie. The next morning, Nanette's attempts to reach Leslie went unanswered. Filled with growing dread, Nanette drove towards Chris's address in Farmersville, simultaneously calling the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, her voice thick with anxiety as she requested a welfare check on her friends, unsure of the horror she might be driving towards. As Nanette sat in front of the house, a woman parked nearby caught her attention. Rolling down her window, Nanette asked if she was also checking on Chris. The woman replied that she was checking on a friend. It was then that Nanette approached the house. The back door was broken, and then she saw him, Chris, lying still. Panic seized her, and she ran back to her car, frantically dialing 911, her voice shaking as she reported a shattered back window and a body inside. There's a foot I saw on the floor. I'm only 16, I can't deal with this, she cried out in shock. Sheriff's deputies arrived, and in the chaos, Nanette remembers seeing Chris being carried out on a stretcher, a sheet covering him, which only amplified her fear. Meanwhile, in Springfield, Illinois, lead crime scene investigator Josh Easton received the call. Nothing could have prepared him for the scene he encountered inside that house. Back at the scene, Nanette's mind reeled. Why would somebody do this to him? Why would they try to hurt my baby? She repeated, her heart breaking. The senselessness of it all was overwhelming, a first date ending in such brutal violence. As Thanksgiving Day 2021 wore on, Nanette Steiber sat in her car, a whirlwind of emotions as emergency responders swarmed the house in Farmersville. She hadn't been able to reach Leslie. She knew about the date, Leslie's excitement at a potential good connection. Now, seeing Chris taken away in an ambulance and no sign of Leslie, a terrible fear gripped her. She clung to the hope of seeing Leslie brought out next. But then, a detective approached, asking for a photo. The news he delivered shattered Nanette's world. Leslie had been murdered, shot. He offered a small comfort, saying it had been quick. Inside the house, EMTs had found Chris barely alive, unable to speak about the horrific events. He was rushed to the hospital while deputies began their grim search. Later that day, investigator Josh Easton stepped into the house, ready to face the aftermath of unimaginable violence. Stepping up to the house, the signs of a violent struggle were immediately apparent. The side door's glass was shattered. Inside, the refrigerator had been yanked away from the wall. The kitchen table was askew, and chairs lay overturned. Notably, no weapon was found at the scene, a detail that strongly suggested the involvement of a third person. Investigator Ian meticulously documented every detail, even the burnt pizza still in the oven. The grim assumption was that Leslie and Chris had been preparing a simple meal for their date when an intruder arrived. They likely fought back, and after Chris was shot, Leslie desperately tried to hide in the living room. Tragically, she was shot only once, but the bullet struck her head. Her body was found in the living room, a stark contrast to where Chris lay in the kitchen. Veteran investigator, with experience with over 1,800 crime scenes, described this one as among the most horrific he had ever witnessed. Blood was everywhere, splattered on the cabinets, the refrigerator, the countertop, a gruesome testament to the violence that had erupted. In the midst of this carnage, investigator Easton discovered two silver 9mm bullet casings, one in the kitchen and the other near Leslie's body. As the crime scene was being processed, detectives began piecing together the lives of the victims. Chris Smith, 48, was a divorced father who worked for a pool contractor. He was remembered as a friendly, familiar face in town, a man who often hung out locally and was well-liked. Bartender Dana Rand recalled his unique hobbies, growing banana trees and giant pumpkins, and his generous spirit, like the time he donated hundreds of pumpkins for children to paint at Halloween. His mother, Sharon Costanza, and sister Ashley Holcomb described him as a homebody who loved working in his backyard and cherished his dog, Tiki. An EMT even speculated that Tiki's presence, huddling with Chris, might have helped him survive the approximately 12 agonizing hours he lay bleeding before help arrived. His close-knit family was utterly bewildered. The thought of anyone wanting to harm Chris was inconceivable. No way. How? Why? Like who? They asked in disbelief. Investigators grappled with the same questions about Leslie. She was a divorced mother of two who lived in Troy, about an hour south of Farmersville. Despite holding a master's degree in engineering, Leslie had chosen a different path, teaching Pilates and empowering women through self-defense classes. In a video posted to her YouTube channel, All You Studio, she advertised her classes, aiming to equip women with easy-to-learn self-defense techniques against aggression and assault. Friends knew Leslie had dedicated herself to helping women in abusive relationships, though they also knew she had faced her own difficulties. Nanette told deputies about her concerns regarding Leslie's former boyfriend, a contractor named Robert Tarr, known as Bobby, stating she was going completely no contact and blocking him from all communication. That evening, as news of Leslie's murder spread, it reached another close friend, Amy Steinhauer. Amy had met Tarr, a divorced father of three, and had formed a negative impression of him. Yet, the thought of him being capable of such violence was unimaginable. That night, Amy called the sheriff's office, providing them with Bobby Tarr's name. By then, detectives were already searching for him. Meanwhile, 85 miles to the north, surgeons were desperately fighting to save Chris Smith's life, a bullet still lodged in his brain. Upon hearing the devastating news, his family immediately began the 2-hour drive to the hospital in Springfield, Illinois, reaching out to everyone they knew for prayers, their hearts heavy with fear and uncertainty. At the hospital, doctors worked urgently on Chris, removing a portion of his skull and extracting bullet fragments from his brain before placing him in a medically induced coma. His family, grappling with the horrifying reality, learned that he had been on a date with a woman named Leslie Reeves. They had never heard her name before. A frantic search online led them to Leslie's friends, and eventually to Nanette. Nanette reiterated to Chris's family what she had already told investigators. Her suspicion fell on Leslie's ex-boyfriend, Bobby Tarr. That very night, sheriff's deputies located Tarr at his home in Collinsville, about an hour south of the crime scene. According to authorities, Tarr offered no resistance and didn't inquire why they wanted to speak with him, agreeing to go to the police station without legal representation. At the station, Tarr spoke with detectives, including a detective named Margaret. Despite Nanette's information that Leslie and Tarr had broken up, Tarr claimed they were still a couple. When questioned about any problems in their relationship, he downplayed them, saying they were no worse than any average couple. However, the detective's focus was squarely on Leslie. "I want you to dig down deep here and be as honest with me as you can," one urged. Then came the stark revelation. Leslie is dead." "What?" Tarr responded, feigning shock. "Can you help me shed some light on this? How did she die?" The detective pressed. "She was murdered." "What happened?" "That's why we're here with you. You help me believe that you're not involved in this." "I'm not involved in anything," Tarr insisted. Investigators then questioned Tarr about Farmersville, the location of the crime. "You know what Farmersville is?" "Farmersville? No, I can't say I do. I've never been there. I've never heard of it," he claimed. They also asked about his whereabouts the night before Thanksgiving. "I went to a buddy of mine's house. He left me some money out of his shop, and I had to go pick it up." He stated that his friend lived a short distance from his own home. When asked about his return time, he vaguely replied, "Yeah, it wasn't that long. Maybe 6:30-ish, something like that." Investigators, however, believed the shooting occurred sometime early on Thanksgiving morning. After 1 a.m., Tarr maintained that after returning from his friend's He was home all night. You can talk to my daughter about me being home, he offered. And that's precisely what they did. Detectives brought Tar's 17-year-old daughter, Shelby, into a separate room. Her account sharply contradicted her father's so. Shelby stated that her father had actually left home twice that night. So, first time he left was roughly 6:30, right? And then he came home about a half hour later. They said he had to go back, right? And then it was 9:15ish when he got back home. Yeah. Shelby clarified that the second time he was gone for over 2 hours. When he finally returned, he was visibly upset. He gets home. He was crying. He was sobbing. He said he missed Leslie. Shelby added that she went to sleep around 9:30 p.m., but was awakened around 2:45 a.m. by her father, who was doing laundry and pacing restlessly, saying he couldn't sleep. Confronted with Shelby's conflicting testimony, Tar changed his story again, admitting he had gone to his friend's house twice but still insisted he was back home by 8 p.m. While Tar sat at the police station, detectives searched his residence. They found his phone and a Glock pistol. Shelby had mentioned a different, smaller, light army green gun that she had seen in her father's sock drawer the morning before Thanksgiving, but it was nowhere to be found. Was there yesterday and gone today? Okay, she had noted. Bobby Tar spent the night at the police station as authorities continued their investigation. They had already discovered that his car had been captured by license plate reader cameras near a gas station just after midnight on the night of the shooting. Further investigation revealed that Tar had purchased gas at that station at that time. Back at the police station, they presented him with the gas station receipt. So you're a liar? A detective stated pointedly. 'Cause I don't remember doing it, Tar mumbled, his carefully constructed story beginning to unravel. Investigators believed it was proof Tar was lying about his whereabouts that night. They placed him under arrest. You're under arrest for murder. A Frontier says they arrested Tar immediately because they feared Chris's life was in danger and they hadn't found the murder weapon. If he was out of custody, could he take further steps to dispose of the evidence? Just one day after Leslie Reeves was killed and Chris Smith was left fighting for his life, investigators believe they had the man responsible in custody. I'm Aaron Marathi, Bobby Tar. But in his only media interview, Bobby says they got the wrong guy. There are so many things untold that will prove my innocence. Bobby Tar, charged with the murder of Leslie Reeves and the attempted murder of Chris Smith, is nothing if not unflappable. Did you kill Leslie Reeves? Did you shoot Chris Smith? He kept his cool even when confronted with a litany of lies he told investigators. You told the police you only left the house once. That wasn't true. Correct. You told the police you had no idea where Farmersville is. That was a lie. You lied about getting gas in your car that night. When he spoke with us, Tara admitted he was at Christmas house the night before Thanksgiving, placing himself at the scene of the crime. He says the night began when he met Leslie at her part-time job at this loft store. She had said she was going to go meet some friends because one of their friends was playing in a band, and she asked me if I wanted to go. I said, well, I would go, but I have my youngest daughter staying with me for a week. Tar says that when he declined the invitation, Leslie asked if he would follow her to Farmersville because her van was unreliable. And so he did. That makes no sense to Leslie's friend Amy Steinhauer. She was terrified of him, and rightfully so. Just a few weeks earlier, Amy says Leslie told her that Tar had shown up while she was on a first date with a different guy. After that incident, Leslie told Amy she was frightened by Tar and texted Amy, I could be killed by him someday if I don't cut all contact. So, you're telling me now that this woman who was scared of you, who had actually texted a friend that she thought you might kill her, asked you to follow her to another man's house. Does that make any sense? No, I understand. So I don't understand that text in general. Why did she think you might kill her? I don't know. I've got no clue. Tar says Leslie lied to her friends about their relationship. He insists she asked him to follow her north to Farmersville. So I went with her up there. I think we arrived there around 7:30. I parked in front of her van in front of his house. That's as far as I went. I left. I never went back to Farmersville again. If he had an innocent explanation for why he was in Farmersville, Why did he lie to detectives? My daughter, her and Leslie. There was a little bit of tension between both them. I did not want her to know that I was going to meet Leslie that night. Tar claims that after he lied to his daughter Shelby about seeing Leslie, he stuck to that lie at the police station because he was afraid they would tell her. And he never corrected those lies, even when detectives arrested him. Why not just say, "Look, between you and me, I lied to my daughter, so let me tell you the truth, but let's just not share that with her." Why wouldn't you do that? I should have done it. The man mused, seemingly referring to the crime, but he was quick to highlight the lack of any hard evidence tying him to the bloody scene. He pointed out that investigators thoroughly searched his white Jetta and found neither glass fragments nor bloodstains. 2 tests by the state police were done on my car. 0 blood found in my car. There's 0 DNA of mine at the crime scene. Anything from the crime scene in my car, or on me, or any of my clothing or my shoes? 0, he emphasized, a point even the prosecutor had to concede. He then shifted focus, questioning the presence of the victim's traces in his own home. Was any of Ty's DNA found inside the house? And adding to the mystery, the murder weapon was still missing. However, a week after the shooting, a call came in from Billy Adams, a friend of the man, Tar. Adams revealed that Tar had called him from jail, a call that was recorded. "What's your day look like today? 'Cause I need 10 minutes of your time," Tar had asked, requesting Adams to search his house for some deck brackets, some special aluminum brackets, for another job that I didn't tell Dad about yet. So, don't say nothing to him. Instead of following Tar's instructions, Adams contacted the sheriff's office. The deputies suspected Tar was using coded language, knowing the call was being recorded. Yeah, get them and get rid of them, they believed he actually meant. This suspicion led them to search Tar's yard. Dan Folutz, Tar's defense attorney, stated, "They searched that area thoroughly. No gun." He also noted, "You know what? They did find deck brackets." A few days later, another call came, this time from Tar's brother, asking the authorities to return to the house. Tar's family then handed over a Ziploc bag, claiming they'd found it in the same yard that had been searched just days prior. Inside was a Springfield Hellcat 9mm pistol and silver-colored ammunition. The Illinois State Police confirmed the gun was the murder weapon, and the ammunition matched the casings from the crime scene. "We still to this day don't know how that ended up there specifically in the spot that they searched," the narrator commented. "Are you saying you were set up? Someone was framing you?" The narration probed. "Yes," Tar asserted. The narrative then pointed out the detail-oriented nature of such a frame-up, noting that the state police found Tar's fingerprint on the Ziploc bag. Tar, however, argued, he is adamant that he would not have been dumb enough, that he would have carried it all the way back to his home and said, "Where would I put this gun on my 1-acre lot? I think I'll put it next to the front door." He further emphasized, neither his prints nor DNA were found on the gun itself. Nothing on the firearm. No DNA, no prints of mine on the firearm. Tar offered his own theory. "What I think what happened is that the gun was clicked and then Mr. Tar just missed a spot. That spot, according to police, contained the victim, Leslie's DNA, found on the guide rod of the gun." Tar's explanation was that the gun wasn't his. It belonged to Leslie. "I purchased the Hellcat, and Leslie purchased it from me." As investigators continued their case against Bobby Tar, they uncovered a disturbing allegation. They say he was hatching a plan to silence the only eyewitness. The narration then directly questioned, "Did you ask an inmate to shoot Chris Smith?" The narrative then shifted to gather more context about the victim, Leslie. "Leslie accompanied me here on several occasions." A voiceover stated, likely referring to a shooting range or similar location. Howard Bolton, Leslie's close friend and firearm instructor, explained, "When I would hold classes, she would actually shoot with us." Leslie was becoming a very good shot. He mentioned Leslie had even organized a class called Girls with Guns shortly before her murder, describing her proficiency. "We put the girls through their paces. They would move and fire. They would go forward and fire. They would come back and fire." And Leslie did very, very well at that. Despite Bobby Tar's insistence that Leslie owned the Hellcat used in the murder, Howard stated, he never saw her use it. The narrative concluded by inviting viewers to share their thoughts on Bobby Tarr's story.